So, Drew Golden. I'm not going to lie. I had like basically no idea who the hell this was. Yes, I know. I'm very, very cringe. Daho living under a rock, yada yada yada. Many, many such cases. I do live under a rock. This is true and real, and for some of you, potentially based, but let's not go that far. I have been seeing this video make the rounds, and from what I understand, Drew is sort of like a normie content creator who talks on a bunch of like cultural trends, but he is talking about greed is destroying the world. Are we? Is this another like rendition of normies talking about the material analysis more and more? Because we recently did a video by Dark Matter. Probably I'll stick that in the description. But we recently did a video about Dark Matter, who is a liberal, is a YouTuber, and whatnot. One can only assume. And he, generally speaking, his shtick, I suppose, for lack of a better term, is that he is a um. What's the best way to describe dark matter? He does like yaps about politics, philosophy. He's like a big sort of like atheist sort of dude. Yeah, one of the not like the cringe version of like the new atheist sort of movement. The Redditor movement. Yada yada yada. I'm rambling here a little bit, but the fact that we're seeing more and more of these like liberal content creators like Dark Matter, like I've had it as well, engaging in more material analysis is generally speaking a very, very welcome change because for the most part with the sort of dominance of neoliberal sort of like politics within the Democratic Party, you're never going to get any sort of, well, let's just say any, and I mean any, like material analysis from the Democrats because in reality, similar to that of the Republican Party, those guys could give less of a flying fuck about doing any material analysis simply due to the fact that they also receive a lot of the exact same like corporate cash and donor money as the Republican Party, and it's a very pervasive problem within American politics, generally speaking. Like, why does Congress, generally speaking, not do much of anything in terms of oversight and passing legislation? It's because, well, they currently like the status quo as is, because the status quo benefits who? The corporations and the rich. And a lot of Democrats are, and I mean like normie, like liberal Democrats, are starting to recognize this more and more, and they are getting rather sick and tired of the current dichotomy that we find ourselves in because it's been ineffective. The strategy of just like taking the high road has been incredibly ineffective. People know and understand and see that the Republican Party are not honest actors. They are demons. They are literal fucking shaitan, and can't be trusted or believed in any way under any fucking circumstance. And they should always be treated that way because they are they're evil. Yeah, I have no problem with just saying that Republicans are fucking evil. But I'm still rambling here a little bit. Generally speaking, and I mean generally speaking, a lot of people have been getting more and more sick and tired of the fact that their leaders have been incredibly ineffective and are more and more having recognitions that, dog, we're like in a second Gilded Age and this is not sustainable. People are eventually going to go out and revolt on the streets, and it's going to get really, really bad if like nobody does anything about this. Like, the economy is basically on the verge of collapse. There is a fucking big ass bubble, and everyone can see that there is a big ass bubble that basically threatens to consume. I'm trying to think of what the best term is. It threatens to basically do For honestly, for like lack of a better term, Great Depression to Electric fucking Boogaloo, which is fantastic. I saw somewhere that a credit card debt is getting worse and worse and worse. And if you recall your history, you know, very well, what does that mean exactly? That means that there could be some really big economic troubles right around the fucking corner, because what was the main catalyst that sort of caused the economic collapse of 1929? The fact that nobody was able to buy their credit, was able to just like grab a credit card and not pay off their fucking credit card debt. Like, unironically, no one was able to fucking pay that shit off, and as a result, because no one could fucking pay that shit, there was no such thing as credit scores at that point in time. It made it such that the fucking economy just collapsed, and that's what caused the Great Depression, right? If we looking into a little bit of our history, of course, we love looking into a little bit of our history. Very, very important, very, very, very crucial thing to always be doing. But yeah, people like Drew Golden here talking more and more about the sort of state of things, the fact that the material conditions on the fucking ground is such that it is so bad that all of these like normie sort of like content creators are starting to talk about how fucking bad it really is a good thing. It brings more awareness, because I mean, he is a gigantic fucking channel, like 4.7 million subscribers. This video has a lot of fucking goddamn views, and it's been going a bit viral. And I mostly just want to see like what is our sort of perspective, like what exactly are we working with here? Because like I said, where I know this guy, and that's what Boy Meets Minnie has told me, is he's like a dude who like looks into grifters and stuff like that, and looks into like pop culture trends and shit like that as well. And I'm just curious to see like what a normie, generally speaking, has to say about the ridiculous amount of concentrated wealth that we are currently experiencing right now is. Let's get into the video.
3 years, I've heard over and over again that a recession is about to hit. The stock market is going to crash. The housing prices are going to come back down to earth any day now, and yet somehow all of these things keep not happening. And for most people, it doesn't make sense.
This is true, by the way. The housing market has not recovered since 2008. It's still in the complete fucking shitter.
Mean the economy's good. My dentist just tried to get me to sign up for a credit card. Since the pandemic, the cost of living has skyrocketed, inflation is out of control, groceries have never been more expensive, layoffs are happening at an alarming rate. At this point, a college degree might be more likely to get you into crippling debt than it is to help you find a job. And even if you have savings, you're more than likely one stroke of bad luck away from losing it all to medical bills. And yet some people will look you right in the eyes and tell you, I don't know what you're talking about. The numbers are green. Is this guy stupid? The problem is each of these...
Yeah, it's because for a lot of people that currently are in power, the only thing that these motherfuckers care about... I'm really glad that he's focusing specifically on the fucking stock market, because for Trump, for example, and for most of these people within power, the only thing as an indicator for economic success is the stock market. It should be extremely fucking obvious why that is a bad thing, and the reasoning for that is because most normal people, I don't know if people know this, they don't own stocks. They don't have any of that shit because they're more busy using most of their money in order to survive.
These people are kind of correct in their own way. This is the best the economy has ever been if you already have money. If you bought a house 5 years ago, there's a chance it's already doubled in value. If you invested in the S&P 500...
By the way, that's like one of the reasons for as to why the Democrats lost the election, is because they talked about like, what do you mean the economy is bad? The economy is actually really, really good, when obviously the economy was not actually good.
2021, you could be up as much as 80%. And that's not like saying, you'd be rich if you just bought Bitcoin in 1973. That's just the regular stock market. You didn't need to have some genius level of foresight to be able to do that. You just needed to already have a bunch of cash sitting around. And obviously for the overwhelming majority of people, that is not the case. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, you're not thinking about the stock market. If you're in your 20s, you haven't even been working long enough to save any money to invest. You don't get to benefit from rising home equity if you don't own a house. The only thing this graph represents to you is how
10% of Americans own 93% of the fucking stocks. It's just trillions upon trillions of dollars of just like random fucking stupid speculative fucking bullshit. Like it's not real. It's all just like make believe, pretend, fucking stupid bullshit. Where it's just like, yeah, dude, it totally. That guy has like $17 trillion. Why? I don't know. The fucking stock market says he does. It's incredibly fucking stupid, dude.
How much further away that dream is getting. Right now, the average age of homebuyers is 59 years old. What a depressing statistic. This is the problem with an economy that disproportionately benefits asset holders instead of the people still trying to earn them. Wealth grows exponentially, but wages aren't even outpacing inflation, which means if your salary hasn't been going up every year, you're effectively making less money. Meanwhile, the fastest way to make $1 million is to just already have 10 million. Leave it in an investment account for a year, and congratulations, you now have $11 million. At a larger scale, this is why it feels like there's two different economies happening, and they're both moving in opposite directions. 50% of the stock market is owned by the top 1%, and only 1% is owned by the bottom 50%. Don't let somebody tell you that these numbers going up should discredit your own lived experience. Don't let some...
Thank you, Democrats, and that is why you guys fucking lost in 2024. And it's also why Trump is going to lose in the 2026 midterm elections and probably also in 2028. Because Trump is basically making all of the exact same mistakes that the Democrats also made as well, where they just talk about like, oh, what do you mean our fucking stock prices and our heckin' portfolios are doing so heckin' fucking good, guys, when in reality the thing that made Trump and the Republican Party win is the fact that he talked about affordability. It was an obvious canard. It was a lie, but he mentioned it. He talked about it. In comparison to the Democratic Party, which just avoided the issue like the plague. And that's probably like one of the major reasons, and rather it is one of the major reasons for as to why they ended up losing to fucking Donald Trump. Because honestly, if we're like, I don't know, like using our brains for like half a second, Donald Trump's campaign was not a very well-run campaign. His campaign was pretty bad. Like, he was talking about, like, sucking off Arnold Palmer or some shit during that campaign. It was a terrible campaign. But it ended up winning because not the Republicans, but the Democrats just... They didn't have an effective message. It was bad, dude. It was really, really bad.
Somebody who's benefited from untaxed inheritance or years of compound interest granting them passive income tell you that your problem is you're just not working hard enough. No, the real answer is, sorry, you should have been born sooner. Have you thought about that? Maybe instead of wasting all that time farting around kindergarten class, you should have been investing in real estate. It's not my fault you're lazy. People are getting squeezed in every direction while also being gaslit into...
Bro, you just have to be on your fucking Sigma grind set every, like, 24/7, 365. Bro, it's all about being Sigma, Ligma, Digma. It's just like, yeah, man, totally. Just being on perma fucking grind set mode is definitely going to fucking help.
Thinking that it's somehow our fault. There's CEOs in earnings calls bragging about how they get to make customers pay for inflation so they don't have to. The economy is so bad right now, I'm about to segue into an extremely ill-timed brand deal in a video about greed. You think I like looking like a hypocrite? Of course not. But my avocado toast isn't going to pay for itself. Hi, I'm upside down. And I'm here to tell you about today's...
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's just like a quick listen, Drew. I understand you got to do fucking sponsorships in order to pay the bills. Because again, like... unironically, okay, this is gonna sound like extremely fucking snooty and fucking conceited, but hey, fucking content creators also do need to pay the fucking bills. They gotta pay the bills, and if they fucking have to pay the goddamn bills and they have to do sponsorships in order to do that shit, then that's what they gotta fucking do. Like, I don't blame, like, content creators for having to do shit like that. It's like, brother, like, everyone is, like, suffering under the economy right now. It fucking sucks for everybody, so... You know, fucking get your fucking bag, King. Listen, I understand.
Sponsor NordVPN. If you're watching this video, you're probably connected to the internet. And if you're not watching this video, how are you hearing this? Anytime you're connected to the location in the app...
I'm just gonna fucking skip the ad.
I'm gonna do anything. I'm just a guy. Thank you to NordVPN for sponsoring this video. The economy sucks ass for most people right now. The only reason we're not technically in a recession is because the GDP is still going up. But the only reason the GDP is still going up is because of the AI industry. But the only reason that even looks as good as it does...
Oh, hey, that's all the exact same shit I'm saying right now. It's all fucking... It's a bubble, dude. Like, unironically, the same shit that happened in '08. But this is gonna be like... I think there's been some statistics that have said that if this bubble pops, and it'll pop. It's a matter of when and not if, because it's going to pop. It's gonna make fucking '08 look like child's play. It's going to be like, I think some statistics. I think that I also did a video about this, talking about the AI bubble. I think it was God, it was CoffeeZilla, I think. Yeah, it was CoffeeZilla who was looking at some statistics about this, saying like, yeah, this thing is like slated to be 4 times worse than '08. Than '08, dude. And we all know how bad '08 was. And '08 was really bad. Really, really, really bad. And this thing is going to be way worse than that, dude. Oh boy.
Is because a handful of companies are just like passing money back and forth. But there's no recession. You're hallucinating. Because the AI...
That's from a video from Hank Green. I would like to actually watch that video. It sounds like a very, very interesting topic to dig into, because, yeah, the only reason why the... not the stock market, but these companies are staying afloat is because they're just basically passing money from one another. It's incredibly stupid.
AI industry is now single-handedly propping up the entire global economy. There's really only 2 paths forward. Worst case scenario, turns out it is all bullshit. The bubble pops in spectacular fashion. Trillions of dollars of investments cannot get paid out, and everything goes up in flames. Or best case scenario, a few billionaires get even richer. Wait, is that what we're hoping for? All right, you're gonna have to bear with me while I go on another AI rant here. I know I do this like every 6 months, but it's not going away. It doesn't count as beating a dead horse if the horse is still alive. We gotta kill that horse first. People largely do not like AI and are worried about the future it imposes. It's currently being used to make a bunch of promises that almost no one asked for. The main appeal of it comes from corporations who see advancements in AI as a way to further reduce their dependence on human labor. The only thing cheaper than outsourcing jobs is just eliminating them altogether. Though,
by the way, like, just genuinely fucking demonic. Like, honestly, like, AI is just wretched. And this is what it's always meant to be for, specifically. It was never about like actual genuine fucking technological advancements for a lot of these people. No, the purpose of AI for like your, I don't know, Jensen Huangs of the fucking world, your Palantir CEOs, these fucking tech broligarchs, is simply just for one reason and one reason only. Basically sucking up more money for themselves so they can engorge on more of the wealth of the world.
Wet dream that soils the sheets of every CEO is a company that's somehow run entirely on its own, and they can just sit back and collect all the profits for themselves. No more dealing with pesky labor laws or health insurance or, can I have Saturday off? My family died. No! Shut up. That's the eventual goal, and why they're all pouring billions of dollars into NVIDIA chips and data centers and cool shirts for Mark Zuckerberg. And in the meantime, we're stuck with ChatGPT, a humanized Google search designed to affirm whatever belief you share with it, even if it's incredibly dangerous, or generative video apps that are already being used to trick people into thinking something happened that didn't actually happen. Awesome technology. I'm so glad this exists. And I think the best thing we can do to fight back against AI is to simply not engage with it. The problem is, even if you don't use these tools, if you live in certain parts of the country, you
have to, pretty much, right? I'm gonna get into this. This is another segment that I'm going to have. The fact that it is being like forced down your throat everywhere. We've all, if you've been on Twitter, you fucking know what I'm talking about here. Like, you're gonna be on a fucking post, and there's gonna be the little Grok symbol in the top fucking right, and it's just like, would you like to have Grok explain this to you? And I'm just like, no, I do not want Grok to explain this, because Elon Musk is like trying to take advantage of the fact that it became like a meme for people to be like, hey yo, at Grok, explain this. Because unfortunately, and this is where I'm going to have to go into a little bit of my own spiel, it's the death of fucking subjectivity. Daho talking about the death of fucking subjectivity yet again. Everyone fucking, I don't know, like, do your poggers, your coggers, my doggers, my loggers, your no weighings. Oh, no way, Daho talking about the philosophical basis that he's engaging with consistently in order to sort of like explain and talk about his the way he sort of like sees the world right now in terms of the modern context we find ourselves in. No, I can't believe that Daho would do that again. No. Sit back, children. So what do I mean by the death of fucking subjectivity? Generally speaking, we are living in an environment, at the very least, where a lot of people are just wholeheartedly incapable of sort of fitting with another person's shoes, or walking a mile in another person's shoes. And what do I mean by this exactly? Well, as a byproduct of the death of critical thinking and education, broadly speaking, throughout the United States of America, people are just not able to sort of just have an understanding whatsoever for as to how people think. And a lot of this came to head during Gamergate specifically. People were just wholeheartedly incapable of ever listening to another person's like sort of side of the story, because it became all about planting your feet on a typically really bad fucking take and just never budging from that position whatsoever, right? Very, very often you would see this sort of like line of behavior, and the sort of like prototypical example that I would talk about this from specifically was the dress discourse. Who remembers the fucking blue slash black dress versus white and gold dress? I fucking saw the white and gold dress. I'll probably stick that video as well within the description. Because for whatever reason, a lot of people during that time were really planting their feet on the ground for which dress that they were seeing, and it was a very, very strange phenomenon, right? Very, very, very strange phenomenon. And it's just like, well, why are people being so adamant in terms of which color dress are they seeing? Like, that doesn't make any fucking sense to me. But it's because of the sort of general pervasive culture we were in at that time. Trump was ascendant in terms of politics at the time. Gamergate was going and doing its like general sort of shtick, I suppose, for lack of a better term. People were not able to see eye to eye on really much of anything. Like, people just fucking hated each other and would get into fights with one another over, honestly, some of the most pettiest fucking bullshit on the planet. On the fucking planet. And it's a byproduct and a result of a lot of the further commodified media that we've been sort of experiencing, especially under the current iteration of the Trump administration. Like, how many fucking media conglomerates is he trying to basically secure for himself? Or not really, like, kind of for himself, for the express purpose of having, like, positive press coverage for himself, because he hates, like, when people question his authority. Oh, it's been a fuck ton of them. So many of them have been basically like bending the knee to fucking Trump and also to any other administrations in order to get more corporate mergers done for themselves, even though it would violate U.S. law and, well, for the most part. And it's a byproduct of the fact that this corporate consolidation has been happening more and more within media, within also general broader society, that has made it such that people are just not capable of being able to engage with one another or like have rapport with one another for whatever reason. Because again, with social media, what is the main goal for social media? They just want to basically do everything possible to make fucking money. That's really about it. And how do these corporations make money? By keeping you on the fucking goddamn platform and constantly yelling at one another. That's literally it. So the death of subjectivity heavily fucking contributes to that, because if you do not know how to engage with someone on the internet or where have you, social media, whatever, it makes it such that you stay on the platform longer, you continue to the doom scrolling, and you make more money, advertiser dollars, for a lot of these like stupid motherfuckers. That is the pretty much main sort of issue that we are is sort of assessing here. And as a result of this death of subjectivity, it has made it such that people are just not able to really engage with one another, and they just hate people's guts. That's like really, really what it is. And also, this is a general broader thing with conservative sort of like media and positions that they generally adopt. They really do not like minority people, and also because I do think that to engage in the death of subjectivity is fundamental for conservative thinking as well. To be a conservative, you must not be able to sort of walk a mile in another person's shoes, to be specific, because they have to see minority populations and other people as humans in order to justify a lot of the beliefs that they have, inherently speaking, within the ideology. Why do you think like people have gone like so ridiculously aggressive online? Well, it's because of that death of subjectivity, and it's only getting worse and worse. Like, how many instances of people do you know have been like advocating for the repeal of like the 19th Amendment, for fuck's sake? It's only been getting more and more aggressive because of the further corporate consolidation and control of media. and it's been having an adverse effect on like the critical thinking ability of a lot of people as well. It's pretty bad. Like I'm trying to think of like any other way to sort of like sugarcoat it or look at it in like a positive light. There is nothing positive about this, and it's all just for the express purpose of like a very sort of like activated, animated few who basically want to do everything possible to make your life more miserable and make more money for themselves. That's really all there is to it. Like it's just the byproducts and the problems of significant concentrations of wealth in the hands of fewer and fewer people.
Might be paying for them. There's been a lot of really good investigative journalism done on all these new data centers that are popping up around the country. Who's funding them and who's getting screwed over in the process. For example, some residents in New Jersey who noticed that their power bill kept going up even though they were actually using less electricity than usual. Well, it turns out it's due to an overall supply cost. Basically, when the total amount of electricity usage in an area goes up, power companies tend to pass those higher costs onto their customers. And for the past several years, electricity usage has been skyrocketing, with over half of that increase coming solely from data centers. Your utility bill is going up because Elon Musk wants to pretend to have a girlfriend. You see, AI doesn't just exist in some theoretical space. It has to be trained on trillions of gigabytes of data, and that data has to be stored in a physical location. To power this, it requires an absurd amount of electricity, which generates an absurd amount of heat, which then requires an absurd amount of water to cool off. Most of these buildings use over 1 million gallons per day, roughly the equivalent of 10,000 people. This would be even more problematic if they were being built.
From what I understand, like the water consumption isn't the biggest problem with a lot of the AI data centers. It's mostly the fact, and this I think is the biggest issue generally speaking, is the fact that it's consuming so much fucking electricity. For what exactly? For Elon to get a fucking girlfriend.
Built in areas where water is extremely scarce. So we should be good as long as we don't build a bunch of them in like the middle of the desert. Whoops. But to be fair, they are extremely efficient about it. They don't just use the water, they also poison it. Every part of this process is wasteful and destructive, and this is only the beginning. AI is still a relatively new phenomenon, so we're only just starting to see the effects of this. But the Department of Energy projects that the percentage of electricity used by data centers could nearly triple in just the next 3 years.
Jesus, why? Triple? Dude, like, I'm telling you, when this fucking bubble pops, and it's going to pop. It will pop. Because, like, think about it for, like, literally 3 seconds. What tangible product has AI created? Where are these firms that have been pumping all of this money, creating all of this hype? Because that's essentially what it is. Like, it's just a bunch of companies are, like, speculating that this is going to be, like, the next big thing since, I don't know, the automobile, and so they're pumping a bunch of money into it for the express purpose of just wanting to make a bunch of people lose their fucking livelihoods. But you know, I digress. Corporations are not people, they are demons, and they hate you. And it's all being done just for the express purpose of just lining the pockets of like a smaller and smaller like privileged few at the expense of, well, you, the fucking taxpayer. It's honestly, it's fucking evil. It's demonic. It's making like pretty much everything like significantly worse for like no reason. And here's the thing, like, I like technology, okay? I like tech and stuff like that. I wouldn't call myself like a tech enthusiast. I just like tech stuff, right? Like, I went to fucking university for this shit and whatnot. And I can, like, acknowledge and see that this is a bunch of fucking hooey. It's a bunch of poppycock. It's fucking nonsense. There's no there to it. It's just a bunch of fuck shit, and it's just for the express purpose of a couple of billionaires to get, like, super rich. Because there are some useful applications for AI in terms of its, like, ability to learn languages for you, in terms of its ability to also engage in its medicinal sort of uses as well. It's got good uses, right? And also like universal language translation. There are pretty good uses out there for AI. There is a spot for it. But that was never the intention with a lot of these like corporations. For them, it was all about making as much money as possible at the expense of the fucking taxpayer. And of course, well, America, if there's one thing that they love more than anything, it's making money for a bunch of like rich oligarch fucking assholes. And all these dudes, by the way, are basically like doing everything possible to, honestly, for like lack of a better term, make society way worse. Because and I do actually really fucking believe this. I think that this shit is like, it's fundamentally fucking anti-human. Like, have you ever seen fucking Peter Thiel speak on like anything? The dude is not a human. He is a psychopath. Like, I do not, like, he's a fucking lizard person. I do not believe that he is human, and he is hardcore going into investment with AI to sort of have his like strange sort of like techno feudalist sort of, not environment, I was going to say environment, but techno sort of like feudalist sort of empire where he himself is like a king on top, because a lot of these motherfuckers also believe in like shit from Curtis Yarvin. There's another like complete fucking crank where basically his whole shtick is that he woke up one day and then he felt like, you know what? I think that democracy is a failure, and that I should be basically king, or like someone else should be fucking king instead of having democracy, because democracy is a complete failure. And he's like just one of these like super weird fucking libertarian fucking nutcases, where basically his whole thing is that he just wants to have someone as like a figurehead, preferably someone who's very, very rich, to essentially run things from on behind, where in reality it's all the incredibly rich fucking weirdos like Peter Thiel, like Curtis fucking Yarvin, whoever it may be. It doesn't matter, right? Like, so long as they are incredibly fucking rich, that's the main prerequisite. They have to be fucking loaded with a bunch of money, to essentially just like run the United States as like a techno feudal sort of like empire, where with like Palantir and shit like that. Palantir is mostly there to exist as the sort of like AI overlord sort of security state apparatus to basically like keep this all in place. You know, I'm saying a lot of stuff here and kind of like rambling here a little bit, but basically there's like one dude who probably never got laid in college because he was like really fucking weird and his vibe was off to the fucking hose, who basically said like, you know what, I just want monarchy to return within the United States of America, but I want to be one of the people at its head, or at least have like a significant power or an ability to be able to sort of like make that decision for fucking humanity. And I mean, if you ever have seen like people like Curtis Yarvin talk, he's really fucking stupid, not very bright, not a lot going on there, and he's like a proper fucking nutter. Like, and the intention of this should all be rather simple. These people just want to do everything possible to make the lives of people significantly worse.
And who gets to pay for it? We do. It's hard for me to accurately express how infuriating this is. The giant buildings that power this stupid fucking technology are being subsidized by people who just happen to live near them. Oh, but hold on, because they're technically contributing to the operating costs. So does that mean that they get to share in the eventual profits? No, of course not. They're more like involuntary investors doing it for free. Or really worse than free, because a lot of them are being kept awake at night by the deafening hum endlessly emitting from the factory shoved into the backyard of their homes that have now surely plummeted.
There's a really good More Perfect Union video about this, talking about the sort of like, it's like a very weird hum, they describe it, in order to basically like keep people awake. And it's also like not healthy for a lot of people as well. People are starting to report on like having adverse health effects as a result of this.
Plummeted in value as a result. But hey, at least they're doing all of this to make a product that hopes to replace 80% of humanity. It's not enough that these people already own everything they could ever want. They could so easily afford to pay for these things without even noticing that that money is gone. But why would they do that when they could simply have poor people pay for it instead? Because nothing will ever be enough for them. You know, when a rich person makes a
I'm so happy that more and more people are saying this. I'm so happy about that, because that is the exact point. Nothing is enough for these people. They just want to do everything, and I mean everything possible, to consolidate more and more and more and more and more and more power under themselves. That is what these motherfuckers want. It's not about like bettering humanity or creating a better product or whatever. These people don't give a shit about any of that stuff. It is about one thing and one thing only: consolidation of more wealth and power under a very, very small subset of people. That is it. When I say that these people fucking hate you and your guts, I'm being quite a genuine when I say that. All of these like Curtis Yarvin types, Peter Thiel, and all these other not brocialist, but broligarch fucking weirdos, they want one thing and one thing only, and that is for you to suffer while they are the lords of the fucking universe, lording over upon their spoils and their fucking kingdoms. These people are genuinely demonic.
Some shady deal to screw over the working class. People will joke that they just need that money to buy their 4th yacht. And I don't even think it's that. They could buy 1,000 yachts and still not run out of money. They don't want to spend their wealth. They just want it to get bigger. It's the same obsession with seeing number go up that keeps me addicted to old school RuneScape, except the only life that's ruining is my own. What they have is a disease. They have been scourged with the blight of insatiable greed, cursed to an endless pursuit of wealth that will never bring them true happiness. I would almost feel bad for them if they weren't actively destroying the world in the process. One of the most frustrating things.
God, I'm telling you, dude, like, more and more, like, normal people are becoming sick and tired of all of this fucking bullshit, dude, because, again, it's a bunch of bullshit. Nobody fucking wanted this. Nobody fucking likes this. And people, generally speaking, have had enough. Enough. Nobody wants any of this bullshit anymore. Like, what? Why? Why would anyone fucking want this? Why would you have to put, like, people basically through, I don't know, like, suffering in order to continue justifying this current system that we find ourselves under? Like, people are just sick of it, man. And it's understandable. It's reasonable for these people to be sick and tired of the current, like, and here's the thing, like, if the cyberpunk dystopia wasn't so fucking soy, I feel like more people would not be, like, upset about it, like, unironically. But the fact that it's incredibly soy, it's being done by some of the biggest fucking losers and weirdos on the fucking planet, and it's not cool, it's not interesting, it's just like, it's soy, it's cringe, it's being done by some of the biggest, nerdiest fucking losers on the planet, and people just, like, don't fucking like that this is what's happening right now.
Things about this problem is that if you even try to suggest that maybe these guys should just have a little bit less money, like, you guys can still be rich, whatever, just turn it down a notch because you're kind of making shit terrible for everybody else, you're treated like you're crazy. No, this is the American way. If you don't like it, then leave. And yet these ideas aren't radical. They're not even new. Most people who advocate for a more progressive tax system are only calling for a return to something that used to exist in this country. We just forgot about it. So I think it's important to...
Yep, the top marginal tax rates within the United States of America, and this was during the time of its most economically prosperous time after the passing of the New Deal, was at its height, I believe, and this is a statistic said by the Majority Report, was about 94%.
Do a little history lesson here. If you can believe it, there was a time where the working class in this country actually had it really good, and it was mostly because things got so bad during the Great Depression that the government was worried about the country collapsing. Thousands of banks had closed, millions of people lost their entire lives.
I'm really happy that he is talking about basically the New Deal being used to bail out fucking capitalism, because unironically, capitalism, because of the Great Depression, was pretty much slated to collapse. That shit was over. It was done. That shit was just not going to... It was not going to go anywhere. It's over. It's done. It's done. And, well, thankfully... Well, not thankfully, rather. The capitalism within America was saved because of the New Deal. At the cost and consequence of also black people having to suffer, like, under racism, yada, yada, yada. Shit like that as well. I digress. There's a lot of history about, like, the consequences of the New Deal, yada, 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 that we could go on into, like, another separate video. That's a bit of a tangent. That's a long time for now. That would take a long time, and don't really have time for that. There we go. The thing with the current sort of motive behind the, the New Deal and whatnot was to essentially save American capitalism from eating itself and collapsing in on itself. And it was effective. It worked. It worked so much so that, and this is a George Carlin bit that he has said before, it basically made it such that the oligarchs, the rich, because after the New Deal passed and World War II was over, the Republicans and the Democrats were, I think, like, for lack of a better term, effectively like a uniparty. Like, effectively, we're just basically a fucking uniparty. They basically would agree on, like, everything except for, like, very, very tiny, minute things kind of around the edge. Mostly around fucking racism and whatnot, but as we all know, racism was defeated in 1964 because of the passing of the Civil Rights Act. You know, we do a little bit of trolling, of course. It's not exactly how that works, but you know what I mean. And as a result of all of this, it made it such that there was nothing really for the Republicans and the Democrats left to do, like, legislatively. But what happened? A lot of people basically fell asleep at the wheel, and it's generally speaking because of another concept that I have talked about, and that is the sort of problems of the monetization of all forms of social interaction. Has anyone, like, ever noticed how there is the existence of all these, like, AI companions and stuff like that? How it's more and more difficult than ever for people to be able to interact and socialize with one another? It's because of the oligarchs, the rich, hacking away and destroying the New Deal. That's why. It's because of that specifically. And it's one of those, like, situations where there's a lot of, like, complicated history for as to why this is the case and whatnot, yada yada yada. But generally speaking, the sort of advent of suburbanization, car culture, and all of this nonsense, because it used to be, historically speaking, that people would oftentimes take public transit with their bosses. Very, very much so. They would always take public transit with their bosses. And people, specifically the bosses, would be hearing a lot of the gossip that the workers would have about their employers and how much they really do not like their employers. Obviously, because of the advent of the New Deal and whatnot, that made people rather spooked out, especially those who are a part of the oligarchy, the rich, yada yada yada. Your standard, not standard sort of bullshit with that in particular. And it is such that with a lot of these people, they wanted to make sure that they would not have to basically ride with the fucking dirty poors and not have to deal with the consequences of them, I don't know, like, basically stinking up the place, and not ride with them, but just basically not interact with them under any fucking circumstance, because they know. And something that does make these people afraid is worker sort of, like, solidarity, because they know that it is a fundamental problem when workers band together in order to fight for their fucking rights. A lot of these stupid fucking oligarch looking head ass motherfuckers know that they are there at their weakest if people are able to collectively bargain and sort of fight for themselves, I guess, for, like, lack of a better term. And so they had to destroy the social bonds that brought unions together, because that's pretty much the main reason why that shit works, because people are able to socially interact with one another and, get along in order to sort of have more power for themselves. And they wanted to destroy that vestige of power. So how do they do that? They went after public transit. They started to isolate people via the suburbs, causing white flight from the inner cities, causing also the suburbanization of America via all of the sort of car infrastructure that was generally implemented within the United States of America. There's a lot of aspects of this that is... I'm kind of oversimplifying here. There's more complicated aspects. There's a ton more reasons for as to why this is the case. But generally speaking, and this is the sort of generalized main reasonings for as to why this is the case, it's because of the destruction of, or the rather successful destruction of, the social fabric within the United States, because of all the stuff that I mentioned earlier, the death of subjectivity, critical education, and also car infrastructure and suburbanization, of the sort of United States of America has made it such that it's more difficult for people to be able to get around. Not to mention, again, I'm going to bring up my personal favorite graph, the wage productivity gap graph. Just like, think about this for like 3 seconds. Wages have fucking stagnated. They have only gone up a little bit for the past 50 fucking years. This is not sustainable. People are not going to be able to have like a better lives for themselves if they are basically unable to participate within the economy. And it's going to cause rather adverse effects in terms of the economy. That's not going to be good for a lot of people, even for the fucking rich, because eventually, and I mean eventually, there's going to be a moment where it all breaks, and there's going to be like a revolution for these people. I mean, if we're just talking like purely self-preservationally for the sort of rich here, basically just doing everything possible in order to make it such that it is impossible for poor people to be able to engage in the economy is not good for them. It's going to be really, really, really bad for them. But as Drew himself is also saying here, like, these people don't give a fuck about any of that. They just want to have more consolidation and wealth and power control under themselves. And it's honestly, the ugly results of that is, I think, starting to rear itself right now. Like, people don't feel like they can participate within the economy anymore, and nobody wants to participate, generally speaking, within society, and are becoming like social recluses as a result. It's genuinely quite sad.
Savings, unemployment peaked at 25%. So in fear of a revolution happening, the government was like, all right, fine, we'll give you livable wages. Just please put that musket down. I don't like the way you're looking at me. So the New Deal was born, and with it came Social Security, better labor standards, the right to unionize, a national minimum wage, an 8-hour workday. And over the next 2 to 3 decades, America became the most prosperous country on earth. Productivity skyrocketed, and wages rose with them. Extra profits.
World War II also obviously helped with that as well. But yeah, generally speaking, this is correct.
Weren't just redistributed to employees, but their employers were proud to do it. They would brag about how lucrative it was to work for them. Look, 37% of profits went to our employees last year because this is a team effort, and when we win, they win. In 1943, Johnson & Johnson puts out this mission statement that's like, here's our list of priorities in order. Customers, number 1, we gotta make good products. Employees, number 2, everyone who works here needs to feel valued and respected. Our community, number 3, we all wanna live in a better world, and as a company of our size, we feel like it's our responsibility to contribute to that however we can. And finally, all the way at the bottom, our shareholders can just have whatever's left. Of course, we need to make a profit to survive and grow, but that should just come naturally as a byproduct of focusing on these 3 tenets. Compared to modern corporate standards, this is all such a foreign concept that it almost sounds like it's coming from a fictional universe. But this actually happened. This was just America 70 years ago. Now, during this time, what do you think the tax rate was on the wealthiest Americans? For reference, in 2025, the highest income tax bracket is supposed to be around 24%, but because of how many ways there are to circumvent the rules, it often ends up being...
It's 94%, right? That was the effect top marginal tax rate. It was 94 or 90%. It was in the high. It was in the 90s.
As little as 3%. For someone like Elon Musk, who doesn't take a salary from Tesla and instead just owns a large percentage of its stock, as long as he doesn't sell any of that stock, then technically there's no income to tax him on. Now, we can still leverage the value of those stocks to make purchases, you know, like how money works, but it's still not taxable because of the rules. This is how people like him and Jeff Bezos can be, in terms of net worth, 2 of the richest people on the planet, and in some years, pay $0 in taxes. In the middle of the 20th century, the tax rate on the ultra-wealthy was not 3% or 20% or even 50%. It was between 70 and 94%. It honestly sounds crazy, but even a lot of the people being taxed understood that it was necessary for society to continue to exist. And having a strong middle class was a crucial investment into the future of the country. But I don't know, man. I just think it's kind of interesting that during what's referred to as the golden age of capitalism, the government did a bunch of socialism. During the period of time that birthed the idea of the American dream.
Okay, it's not exactly socialism, but, you know, we get the point that's being made here.
The government was taxing the absolute shit out of the richest Americans and using that money to provide jobs and welfare programs for everybody else. A single income household working a regular ass job could afford to start a family, buy a house, send their kids to college, and retire at a reasonable age. No wonder people who grew up then gush about capitalism the way they do, because for them...
Fucking boomers, yeah. Listen, the boomers, they had theirs, and, well, I was able to work for it, and I did it in a meritocratic sense. Now you have to fucking do it, little Timmy. It's like, but little Timmy can't fucking... afford the basics right now. Like, nobody can fucking afford shit, so it's like, it's impossible. It's just genuinely impossible for people to be able to live, and as a result, a lot of people are understandably quite upset about it.
It was great. But at this point, it is disingenuous to use that time period as the example for why capitalism works, because that version of it stopped existing a long time ago. The generation of people who started as beneficiaries of a more equitable system changed the rules once the roles were reversed and they had the power. So what the hell happened? Everything was going great. What changed? Well, there were a lot of things, obviously, but one of the first big dominoes was the US's involvement in the Vietnam War, which was expensive and deadly, but to be fair, also accomplished nothing. And this had long-term ramifications. America had been diverting so much money away from manufacturing and towards defense that it opened the door for other growing industrialized countries to surpass them. More and more products were becoming cheaper to import than they were to produce. This led to factories getting shut down, unemployment starting to creep back up. A recession hits, and we're now facing a pivotal fork in the road in the late 70s. Either we could go back to what worked in the past, prioritize the working class, reinvest into our own infrastructure, try to help lift people out of poverty they've fallen into through no fault of their own.
Corporations lobbied the government effectively in order to make it such that they are what matters first. Yeah. Citizens United, I believe, was also passing around the fucking 70s as well, where money basically became effective speech. And that was, like, pretty much the fucking death nail right there.
Or we say, fuck the government. We don't owe you shit. We're stupid, isn't that right? I don't even know my own name. Exactly. The deal is you pay taxes, and we don't do anything. And you like that, right? They like that? Sounds good to me. The prevailing philosophy throughout the 80s became trickle-down economics. The logic being, oh man, these rich people are really handcuffed. You know, I bet if we lower the corporate tax rate from 70 all the way to eventually 28%, then companies will use all that extra money to pay their employees more. I mean, if there's one thing we know.
Thank you, Art Laffer, you stupid fuckwit, for basically causing the collapse of America.
About rich people is that they're always looking out for the little guy. Now, for some reason, this hasn't worked out yet, but it's only been 55 years, so the jury's still out. See, I would argue that part of the reason why companies in the 40s and 50s were so generous with their extra profits was because the tax rate was so high. I mean, think about it. If you're faced with a decision between giving a huge chunk of money to the government or redistributing it back to the employees who helped you earn it in the first place, you would be much more likely to do the latter because it's an investment in your own company. It's a mutually beneficial exchange. Well-compensated workers are proven to be more loyal and more productive, and those are two things that you want. Now, there were other factors as well, loosening a lot of anti-monopoly regulations, the legalization of stock buybacks, but this dramatically lower tax rate is a big reason why.
Repeal of Glass-Steagall as well. Big significant problem for the further isolation that I've talked about earlier, especially with the death of subjectivity and whatnot. And a bunch of other, like, yeah, it's mostly loosening of regulations because, like I said before, when the New Deal passed, did the oligarchs and the rich and the corporations in America go to sleep? No, no, no. No, 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 no. Bucky v. Vallejo. Thank you, Alex. Yes, that's the one. Bucky v. Vallejo. Thank you. Yes, that laid this groundwork for Citizens United. Yes, of course. Thank you. I knew there was like another Supreme Court case as well, but I was fucking forgetting it. Yeah, that was like pretty much a big reason for as to why the corporations and the rich started to gain a lot more outsized control within the annals of the U.S. government. But I digress. Another thing, I suppose, as well. God, what was I saying before? Oh yes, with the death of subjectivity stuff. Yeah, like that's pretty much like one of the main reasons for as to why it was being contributed to the death of subjectivity, right? Like the further corporate consolidation of power and control under Ronald Reagan. Like when I keep saying that we will be feeling the consequences of Ronald Reagan for a long fucking time to come, I genuinely mean it. We are still feeling the effects and consequences of Ronald Reagan for a very, very, very fucking long time. And we still have not honestly finished feeling the effects of it, even like 40 years later. I mean, a lot of those policies are still being maintained and have been mostly built upon, making everything just generally worse for everyone out there. But I digress. Also, you can blame Obama for a lot of that. Thanks, Obama. And Clinton, you fuckwit. The reason for us to why we have gotten in this position that we find ourselves under is because of the fact that for the corporations and the rich, they don't want just some of the money. They want all the money. It's all about just power in establishing systems of control for these people. That is it.
Why the 80s serves as the dividing line on just about graph you could look at. This was the beginning of a long and continuous transfer of wealth from the working class to the top 1%. And while it would be very easy to just blame all of this on then President Reagan, that would only be mostly true. Sure, this every economic graph you could look at. Beneficial exchange. Well-compensated workers are proven to be more loyal and more productive, and those are two things that you want. Now, there were other factors as well, loosening a lot of anti-monopoly regulations, the legalization of stock buybacks, but this dramatically lower tax rate is a big reason why the 80s serves as
ellipsoid point. Wait, that's the graph I refer to all the time. I'm doing the Leonardo DiCaprio fucking meme. Whoa! Guys, it turns out that if you let wages stagnate for about 50 years, it's actually kind of bad. Who would have thought?
The dividing line on just about every economic graph you could look at. This was the beginning of a long and continuous transfer of wealth from the working class to the top 1%. And while it would be very easy to just blame all of this on then President Reagan, that would only be mostly true. Sure, this new approach opened the door for more exploitation and growth.
I would probably say that Reagan probably contributed to about 60% of the fucking problems that we currently find ourselves under, which is still quite a lot.
But you still needed a few scumbags willing to go through that door for the evolution to be complete. And nobody sprinted through it faster than one man. The real-life cartoon villain who designed the blueprint that most modern CEOs are still following to this day. His name was Jack Welch, and he's often referred to as the man who broke capitalism. During his tenure as CEO of General Electric, he turned the once quintessential American company that reshaped people's lives and supplied hundreds of thousands of high-paying jobs all across the country into a worthless carcass and a joke of a corporation, all while he became one of the richest people on the planet. In the century before Jack Welch took the reins, GE invented things like X-ray machines, jet engines, TVs, radios, and just about any kitchen appliance you can think of. In the 1980s, Jack invented laying people off. That was his big idea. What if we just fire a bunch of people? And then we don't have to spend as much money. It seems so simple and obviously very commonplace today, but before Jack, companies were not doing this. It was almost seen as un-American to fire somebody unless you absolutely had to. But Jack didn't think like everybody else. He was a pioneer. He bravely instituted the rank and yank system where every year the bottom 10% of employees would get laid off no matter what. Not because they all deserved to be fired, but just because they fell on the wrong side of a spreadsheet.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's also like a big contributing factor. Some fuckwit was just like, you know what if we just like, instead of properly paying money to our employees, what if we just like start firing people instead? Forehead. And it's just like, that's totally not going to have any adverse effects at all whatsoever.
What's that? You were 3 years away from retirement and now you no longer qualify for pension? Okay, then die. And to be clear, the layoffs were also not because the company wasn't profitable. It very much was, but it just wasn't profitable enough. See, when you routinely shut down entire facilities, you uproot thousands of lives, you create a toxic and selfish work environment where loyalty is replaced with fear, and if you're a company with the size and influence that GE had at the time, you can almost single-handedly destroy any semblance of a middle class across all of America. But this number gets a little bit bigger. So it's kind of a fair trade. GE was at the forefront of this countrywide philosophical transition from an economy that cared about making things and rewarding the labor it took to do so, to an economy that only cared about shareholder value and would prioritize anything it could to make that number go up. But the thing about the stock market is it's mostly just about perception. As long as something seems to be growing in value, then people will be more likely to invest in it, which will in turn cause it to be more valuable, even if it shouldn't be. A lot of
it's all a fucking it's just vibes. Like, unironically, like I've talked about this before, but the stock market, it's fake. It's just bullshit. Like, it's just a fucking gambling machine that operates off of your fucking fifis rather than like the actual sort of like logic or how people fucking think about stuff. It's complete fucking bullshit. Like, honestly, like, because I've also said this before, the fact that the American economy is primarily sort of around its the best way and indicators for economic productivity is based off of a fucking gambling machine that can just do a bunch of random bullshit at any point in time. And it's just like, this is totally okay and a very, very good basis of economic fucking productivity that exists for the United States of America. There's clearly nothing wrong with what's going on here whatsoever. No. Don't pay attention to any of that stuff. Might be a bit of a problem. It might be kind of bad to base your economy around essentially what is a gambling machine.
What Jack did during his time as CEO did not make the company better, but it did make it bigger. And in the eyes of Wall Street, that was all that mattered. I mean, come on, a business that relies on something boring like selling products can only grow so much. But a company that's constantly acquiring other companies simply has no ceiling. I mean, they could be worth infinity dollars when you think about it. So that's what they did. Over the next few decades, GE...
And that is genuinely how these motherfuckers think. Like, they think that money unironically grows on trees, and as a result of it, them thinking that money just like randomly is capable of growing on trees, which is nonsensical. There is no such thing as fucking infinite growth. That's just not how that fucking works. It's ridiculous. It's fucking stupid. It's made it such that the sort of like prevailing attitude and the sort of like further concentration and like all the media sort of like conglomeration that's currently happening right now in the Trump administration is like the sort of final end result of, well, shit from fucking GE.
bought and sold hundreds of companies, and Jack was lauded for his brilliance because from the outside, everything seemed to be working. I mean, sure, they were becoming a bloated, nonsensical hodgepodge of unrelated businesses, eroding the company's infrastructure and prioritizing constant quarterly gains over any long-term sustainability, but no one gives a shit because the stock price has never been high. They've stumbled upon an infinite money glitch. They're just alchemizing value out of thin air. It gets to a point where the company founded by Thomas Edison doesn't even make their own light bulbs anymore. It's cheaper to get them somewhere else. Who cares? All they care about now is their ballooning financial division. They're issuing high-interest loans. They become a massive holder of subprime mortgages, a famously good investment to make in the early 2000s. Literally whatever it took to juice the numbers, that's what they would do. After about 30 years of short-term decisions that received instant gratification from shareholders but were gradually making things worse for the company and its dwindling number of employees, GE had become severely overvalued. And it wasn't until right after Jack retired with his $400 million severance package where his successors stepped in and were like,
this doesn't make any sense.
the time bomb Jack planted explodes in their faces, and GE spends the next 20 years slowly bleeding out. And at this point, they couldn't fall back on just like selling microwaves because they'd been cutting corners on production so long that no.
And also, like, what products do they have to sell? Like, what do they sell? What products do these motherfuckers make? They don't make shit. That's the problem.
Nobody wanted to buy any of their shitty garbage anymore. And of course, they had fallen way too far behind on innovation because they spent
Not to mention also a lot of the deregulation of also American products. Like, generally speaking, most people don't want to buy fucking American products from around the world because people know that it's fucking shit.
their money on acquisitions instead of research. By 2021, the company that helped bring electricity to America was mercifully laid to rest, split into 3 separate institutions, none of which have come close to the dominance or influence that GE once had over the American economy. But here's the thing. You know who isn't affected at all by the cataclysmic downfall of General Electric? Jack Welch. Because he's dead now. He already got to live his entire life of luxury and adoration without ever having to deal with the fallout caused by his actions. He took control of a building with a rock-solid foundation and just kept scrapping it for parts until the only thing left for it to do was collapse under its own weight. But by that point, he was long gone. I believe that this is the goal of those who now follow in his footsteps. They don't need to care about whether or not what they're doing is harmful or unsustainable. As long as the facade can be maintained long enough for them to reap the rewards, it doesn't matter that the ship is sinking behind them because they have a lifeboat. It doesn't matter that America spent the past 60 years exporting all its jobs and decimating the economies of small towns all across the country because a few hundred people responsible for those things already got to live long, happy lives. They don't give a shit.
This cutthroat corporate culture that Jack pioneered is still seen all around us today, and through the magic of time, it's only getting worse. CEOs make $1,000 every second, while their employees have to piss in water bottles so they don't fall behind. Routine layoffs, regardless of if a company is even struggling, are so normalized that it's just something we've come to expect. The stock market rules the world. Every major decision is dictated by this inherently volatile and short-sighted metric, and look at where that's gotten us. Millions without jobs, an enshittification epidemic, and a concentration of wealth that should be seen as a threat to humanity. Even while owning everything, billionaires live in fear of losing it. So they weasel their way into politics, they influence elections, they buy policy changes, they use their wealth to reshape the world to benefit them even further. They try to control narratives by buying up news outlets, they can dictate what's on our social media feeds. They spend an enormous amount of resources on pitting us all against each other so we're too distracted.
Yep, so you don't know what the fuck's going on. That's the point of all this. They just want to fucking distract you as much as possible. So then again, because I've been saying this constantly over and over and over again, it's not about producing things anymore for these people. It's all about consolidation of power and control under a select few people. That's it.
To see that the real problem is them.
Should the human race survive?
Oh, this is a fucking famous moment. Known human, Peter Thiel. Known, like, psycho, dude who thinks about the Antichrist for all the time for some fucking reason. Peter Thiel. You want to talk about someone who's a fucking nutter. This guy.
Everything kind of sucks right now, and as a result, most people are justifiably pretty angry. But for media outlets and politics...
Oh, I guess just... Okay, I thought he was going to play the clip. Basically, for quick context to Reno, basically he was, like, talking about the Antichrist and also how humanity has pretty much fulfilled its purpose, and humanity is just basically unnecessary. Like, we don't need humans anymore. It's like, he tried to, like, word it very, very carefully, but... The funny thing about Peter Thiel is that he's not very bright. He's really, really stupid. His brain leaks out of his fucking ears because, I don't know. Have you seen the dude? He believes that all, like, 80% of humanity needs to be fucking replaced by fucking, like, AI machines that's overseen by, like, unironic fucking Skynet. And that's, like, his shtick, is building fucking Skynet. So... yeah, like, obviously the dude's not going to be able to, like, really articulate the reasoning for as to why, because it turns out nobody wants that shit, and it's actually kind of bad.
politicians, that anger is their single most powerful tool because they can tell you where to direct it. And they don't even really care who it is, so long as it's not them. That's why it changes all the time. Sometimes it's trans people, sometimes it's immigrants. Most recently, it's been poor people. There's been this whole war going on over food stamps because when the government shut down, 42 million Americans lost access to SNAP benefits. Now that's an objective piece of information, an inarguable statistic, but depending on how it's presented to you, it may lead you to draw a drastically different conclusion than somebody else. For some, it might put into perspective how dire.
It's really funny because, again, it's the same welfare queen bullshit that was of the fucking goddamn 80s. Reagan did the exact same shit, by the way. It's almost as if, you know, for all of the... God, what's the fucking saying? I'm really bad at fucking sayings. For all the things that change, there seems to be a lot that still stays the same.
The situation has gotten. Like, surely there's underlying issues with a system that's allowed 12% of its population to be unable to afford food. Alternatively, you might hear that and think, wait a minute, my tax dollars are paying for these greedy freeloaders? I'm busting my ass over here to barely make ends meet, and these leeches are using my money to buy cookies? That's not fair. And all it takes is highlighting a story or two of someone taking advantage of the system to make you think there's this rampant issue, that you're expected to feed all of these people with money you barely have enough of to feed yourself. This narrative has been used since the 70s because it's very effective. You work hard, they're lazy, this program is bad. It's easier than ever now to push this narrative because you can just AI generate a video of a fat lady screaming in Walmart and get everyone pissed off. But in order to properly analyze this, let's take a look at the data. First of all, SNAP only makes up about 1.5% of the overall federal budget, less than 1/8 of what we spend on defense, and 1/8 of what we spend just on interest on the debt that we owe. By my math.
Oh yeah, and by the way, like for that tiny amount of investment in terms of the sheer raw percentages, the return on investment that you get on SNAP is insane. But unfortunately, poor people are benefiting from some social safety net programs, so therefore, for the broligarchs, rather, it's bad inherently.
Cutting this program would only save the average taxpayer a couple $100s a year, and of course that's assuming that if they were to cut it, they would send you a refund in the mail. No, I'm pretty sure they would still take the same amount, but instead of reinvesting it into the economy, which is what SNAP ultimately does, they would just buy some more missiles or send a pile of cash to Argentina. Second of all, by definition, the majority of SNAP recipients fall under the umbrella of elderly, disabled, veterans, full-time caretakers, or just temporarily unemployed. Remember, not everybody who isn't working does so because they don't want to. It is very hard to find and keep a job right now. The fact that SNAP spending ebbs and flows so closely with the overall state of the economy should be proof that this program is primarily used for temporary relief. Even still, many of the people on SNAP do work, and about 70% of the ones that do work full-time. That doesn't seem like a laziness problem, that seems like a wage problem. They need supplemental income.
It also seems like it might be a problem with the general sort of job market as well. Not that what Drew here is saying is wrong. He is correct when he is saying that it is a wage problem. It is a fucking wage problem. Big problem with the wages. But it is also just the fact that it is a problem, fundamentally speaking, with the fundamental basis of the economy of the United States of America. Yeah, it's you know, I keep forgetting who it is. It's James Carville who said, James Carville of all people, who said it's the fucking economy, stupid.
To survive because of how little they're being paid. Of those full-time employees, their two most common employers were McDonald's and Walmart, who combined to earn $23 billion in profits last year. $23 billion, and you're telling me they can't afford to pay their employees enough so that they don't need government assistance? See, what that means is you wouldn't have to help pay for these people's food if their employer, a nearly $1 trillion corporation, just paid.
Yeah, just gave them more money. Just pay them more. Just pay them more. Just unironically, it's like sometimes Occam's razor forehead solution is sometimes the correct one. Like it's like, dude, just pay them more money.
Them a livable wage. You're more upset at the people using the program than the companies who have put them in a position where they even need it in the first place. Also, Walmart double dips here. The majority of food stamps are redeemed at Walmart. So not only do they save money by underpaying their staff, but their revenue then gets subsidized by this program because that's where people tend to use it. Final statistic, about a third of SNAP recipients, over 12 million of them, are children. What's the argument there? Are they not working hard enough? What, you don't want to get a job just because you're 7? Like, can we stop for 1 second to think about what you're saying here? You have let somebody convince you that in this situation, the only way to make your life better is if 12 million children starve. So I want to ask, who is more to blame here? A bunch of kids who got born into poverty, or CEOs with more money than anybody could spend in 1,000 lifetimes who expect you to solve the problem that they helped create?
For some people, it doesn't matter what you...
By the way, that's also the same thing with fucking climate change as well, just as like a quick fucking aside. That's literally the same sort of like logic with climate change, where basically a successful ad campaign was done by fucking BP to say that, oh, actually, climate change, that's a you problem. Like, you guys are the ones who are supposed to solve that shit, when it's obviously it's nonsensical. We've known since the 70s that the main sort of contributors to climate change, to global emissions, are corporations. And that being about 70% of emissions.
you say about capitalism, they will still go to war for it, even if it's not working for them. Statistically speaking, it's probably not. You'll try to criticize a multi-billionaire who's not paying enough taxes, and people will defend them like, hey, it's not their fault. They're just taking advantage of loopholes like any smart business person would. And you're like, okay, so then we agree there's a problem with the rules, right? If they're just exploiting the system, then maybe the system shouldn't be so easy to exploit. We've reached a point where a lot of the core principles of a free market no longer apply. Like the idea that you can vote with your dollar. I get to pick which businesses I support, therefore the best ones will succeed and the worst ones will fail. Yeah, except when one company is allowed to corner the market and price out all their competition, suddenly there isn't any.
And we would have small businesses tell us if they walked into a Walmart or a Costco, the retail price at those stores, the price on the shelves at those stores is lower than the wholesale price a small business is getting. And so there are huge disparities here.
And that's now feeding into itself, right? The more dire the economy is for everyone, the less freedom they have when they're deciding what to pay for. Amazon is certainly not the only place to buy things, but historically speaking, it's almost always the cheapest and most convenient. So how do you convince somebody who's also been forced to pinch pennies due to their own circumstances that they need to spend more time and money buying that same thing from a local mom and pop shop when they could just click 3 buttons and have it magically appear at their door in 3 hours? It's not even really fair to impose that because that person is also struggling. But then the cycle continues. The small business closes, Amazon and Walmart extend their reach even further, and once all competition is defeated, then they can just raise the prices to be whatever they want.
Yep, this is a thing that constantly happens, right? Basically, like, the thing that constantly kills all of these, like, smaller towns and communities is if a fucking Walmart moves in there, right? Because all these small businesses, they can't fucking compete with the fact that Walmart can just fucking undercut them and just have more and more of these sort of lion's share of the fucking customers and better prices because they just make way more money, and it makes it such that they choke out all their fucking competition. Same thing with fucking Amazon as well. There's no difference there. Because I know that, like, a lot of people like to bitch and complain about AOC stopping Amazon from being able to set up a fucking shop there. That's like probably, like, honestly, that is probably one of the best things that she has ever fucking done, because of the fact that Amazon exists for one purpose and one purpose only. That is to just choke out fucking competition and make it such that they are the only thing that can be served. And Joe Biden, to his credit, was starting to take care of a lot of that problem, thanks to Elizabeth Warren telling him, you should put Lena Khan in as FTC chair. And these motherfuckers were terrified about Lena Khan specifically, right? And they knew, because they would actually be seeing some kind of oversight. Now, it was a little bit too little too late. It was a project that should have been started, like, forever ago, like, more than forever ago. But unfortunately, the sort of consequences of Ronald Reagan, again, that stupid motherfucker, rearing his dumbass, ugly, dementia-addled ass yet again, basically making it such that that was not the conventional wisdom, and it's bad to go after the corporations. And as a result of Ronald Reagan saying, actually, it's kind of bad to go after corporations, guys. You should not be doing that. It made it such that, oh, well, you know, more and more consolidation and wealth and power and control was being concentrated in the hands of fewer and fewer people. And as a result, oh, the current dichotomy with the economy that we have right now is the main thing that's currently in place.
They can train an algorithm to charge you the maximum price they think you'll pay at any given moment. Now, one of the most common counter-arguments you'll hear if you bring up the idea of raising taxes on the ultra-wealthy is that, well, if you do that, they're just going to leave. First of all, no, they're not. That's a bluff they've been using for years, perpetuated by media networks owned by, you guguessed it, rich people who don't want their taxes to go up. Sure, a few of them might leave, but the kinds of people who are willing to go to the trouble of moving their entire business.
Again, like, I'm going to tell you right now, like, ask yourself this fucking question real quick. Do you really believe in your heart of hearts that financial, like, businesses and whatnot are going to leave New York City? Ask yourself that fucking question. Really. The financial capital of the world. Of the world. You think that these motherfuckers are going to leave that for, like, I don't know, a shithole like fucking Florida? Yeah, okay, dude. Nice meme.
From New York City to, like, Kissimmee, Florida, are probably already doing everything they can to avoid paying any taxes at all. It doesn't seem like a very productive mindset to cater to this parasitic minority at the expense of everybody else. Second of all, oh my god, can we grow some fucking balls here?
You don't understand. They're not gonna like it if we raise their taxes.
Do you hear yourself? Do you hear how pathetic you sound? Okay, so what, we can't do anything then? That's it? It's over, they won? Your plan is that we should just give up and let the billionaires have whatever they want. Buddy, we've already tried that, and that's not working either. Third of all, this criticism is predicated on an idea that taxation essentially has a bell curve to it, where after a certain rate, your overall revenue actually decreases because people will lose the incentive to work as hard or, like you're saying, move away. With this in mind, there have been studies done by economists who believe that every country has its own ideal rate for maximum efficiency. However, the implication that raising taxes would cause the overall revenue to go down would only be true if we were on the tail end of this bell curve, and we are nowhere close to that. So if your main concern is to maximize total revenue, it's pretty clear which direction we should be moving in. Otherwise, the very metric your point is referencing contradicts the argument you're trying to make. Now, even having said all of that, I'm not going to sit here and act like just raising taxes is an immediate fix to all of our problems, because we'd still have to rely on elected officials to actually use that money in a sensible way. I'd be happy to contribute more if I knew it was going to better healthcare or nicer parks or public transportation, but if my money's just going to be used to blow up a hospital on the other side of the world, then yeah, maybe I'd rather just give it to a food bank. I don't know all the answers, because at the end of the day, no matter how hard I try to expand my legacy beyond it, I'm still just the road work ahead guy. But I do know that this amount of wealth inequality that's showing zero signs of slowing down anytime soon.
Oh, this is a classic fucking video right here. This wealth inequality in America, where it shows like just how stark the fucking difference is. It honestly, it really is that bad, guys.
Is not sustainable. Turns out that actually every single thing in the world becoming a for-profit commodity, from housing to healthcare, is just a way to enrich a few people at the cost of many. And I have to wonder if we've finally reached a point now where the greed has gone too far, that it's now so impossible to ignore that no amount of gaslighting about how the economy is good actually will convince people who are dying because they can't afford to go to the doctor that this is just how life should be. History shows that unfortunately sometimes things have to get worse before they can get better, and if this is what it takes for a return to class solidarity, then I guess at least we're closer to that than we've been in a long time. We just need to put down our phones, set aside our differences for a little bit, and unite on this one issue. They want us divided because they're afraid of how strong we would be if we stood together. Do not fall for it. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go argue on Reddit about how Ghost of Yote is woke because they didn't make the main character hot enough for me. Thank you for watching.
That's good. Right, I'm starting to understand why that video is as viral as it is. I mean, pretty much perfectly accurate sort of like takes and criticisms there done by Drew Gooden. Like, and I think the most important thing to mention here is that he makes like normie content talking about like pop culture stuff, and he is the one that's bringing up just how bad wealth disparity is currently right now within the United States of America. That's not a good sign for a lot of, well, honestly, the fucking oligarchs. It's not a good thing. It's really bad out there. And broadly speaking, everyone understands that the current sort of dichotomy that we find ourselves under is, it ain't sustainable. No one thinks that this is fucking sustainable. And people, broadly speaking, have had enough. They've had enough of all the failed policies, all the broligarch fucking losers that make everything significantly worse for everyone, and concentrating, as I've been constantly reiterating in this video, more wealth and power under themselves. Right? Like, we are, I think, reaching a potential inflection point where, as Drew himself also mentioned, we are reaching another potential fork in the road. What is going to be the decision of the US government? To help the people or to help the corporations? It's probably going to be help the fucking corporations. Let's be fucking quite honest here, because these people are so ridiculously captured by all of these stupid motherfuckers. And they are stupid motherfuckers. They are so ridiculously fucking captured by these people. It makes it such that it is effectively impossible for the views of the average American to be implemented as policy. And especially, like, besides the infighting that constantly happens in the working class itself. Because of the fact that they have been so ridiculously propagandized to for the past several decades, saying that, oh, actually everything is like totally fine, it's like totally okay that all these like corporations and rich people are making the amount of money that they do. However, the American people are starting to wake up. I believe it's about 60% of Democrats say that they now have a favorable view of socialism. That is insane. And if the sort of current gentry, the old stupid current defenders of the oligarchy, the neoliberals, the neocons as well, don't make this recognition like, uh-oh, we might have a potential revolution on our hands and be really, really, really bad. It's going to all collapse in on itself, and it's going to be a complete disaster for these, well, stupid pieces of shit at the fucking goddamn top. I've said this before, but it truly is becoming a socialism or barbarism moment, where we are currently at the point where it's looking like barbarism is going to be more and more and more likely at this point, rather than fucking socialism, because the current sort of people in power are going to do everything, even potentially deploying the fucking National Guard and the army to make sure that this does not come to pass, because currently the gravy train for the people in power is really, really, really good. And to sort of make these sort of a current sort of like oligarchy, this attempt to build at a new rich monarchy to be the main thing that stays in power, so then all of these fucking parasites, these incredibly rich pieces of shit, make more and more money under themselves and have more and more power under themselves, because that's the whole point of it. So much so that it's going to be like unironic, like sort of like king making shit. That's how insane everything has gone. But yeah, great video there by Drew Gooden, and the fact that normies like Drew is starting to say that stuff, or say this stuff specifically, that the left has been saying for the past several decades at this point, should really say something about how obvious and stark it truly is in terms of the material conditions on the ground. I don't think there's really much else to say besides tax the rich. Otherwise, you're going to have a bunch of really hungry people starting to throw stuff at the ivory towers that these people currently occupy right now. And it's going to only get much, much worse in terms of the sort of general stability of society.